Hi, welcome back, everyone. This is the second day of iMentor, and today I want to talk a little bit about research style diversity, but mostly under the context of the imposter syndrome and how to overcome it. Please let Miles know your questions. And our goal, of course, is to help you to enjoy this career, this profession, your graduate school, and go into conferences, and then in the long run prevent burnout, which is very real. And this is a very competitive profession. Oftentimes I have this feeling that, I have to do all of them, and what are these tasks that you feel like you have to do? You have to have a large research group, lots of research grants and publications, and keep them coming. And then sometimes you want to chase a hot topic. So what is hot? AI, deep learning. And for a long time, this profession is just fixated on attack research. Do I have to be a hacker? Now with COVID, all these things related to COVID. Inventor, entrepreneurship, open companies, startups. And then once in a while, you want to appear in media. You want to, sometimes you see your colleagues appear in media. You're like, I have to also get on to, news and so on. And you also don't want to be left behind by all the major committees, right? So if there's like all the top conferences, you want to be involved. It's a lot of work. And on top of this, you're a person, you live a life, and there's other mundane tasks you have to deal with. And for me, for a long time, my cousin works at Samsung Electronics, and he's just extremely good. And then my parents was always like, I want your cousin to fix our computers. And I was like, no, I study computer science. I can fix your computer. And of course, I'm not very good at that. And so it's just a huge amount of stress, and you feel like you have to be perfect. And so do you have to be perfect? And so that's what we're going to talk about. And imposter syndrome is hugely under-discussed in our profession. I'm referring to computer science in general. There's a recent study by a group of researchers at UCSD, San Diego, out of 203 CS students, including both undergrad and graduate students. A huge number of them, 71% of women and 52% of men, have experienced frequent feelings of imposter syndrome. And of course, it leads to depression and anxiety. It's just not very, not a good mental state you want to be in. And why is this? Who cares, right? So, you could be like, maybe half functioning and still get work done. Why do we need to have a very healthy, strong mind to do research? And it all comes down to persistence, which we started during orientation. A lot of the committee members say, stay strong, stay there, persistent, don't quit. It just is such a big deal. We're going to talk a bit more in this hour. And I want to use my experience. I love cybersecurity, and I like detective story and catch bad people in secure cyberspace. And a lot of my work is just understanding the cyber risk and then reduce the risk by proactively have defense solutions and then mitigations. And then so that there's no surprises, or you manage the surprise, the attack. There will always be attack, and so I really love that. But for a long time, I wasn't very comfortable in my skin, and a lot of the depression discussions, they show this duck come out outside, but then madly paddling underneath the water. And I was very much like that. And this is a picture taken probably around 2014. But then, it's just persistent self-doubt. It's not like I doubt myself every minute, but then it's looking back, the majority of time I wasn't sure of myself. And I think I was thinking of quitting all the time, and it's just a chronic stress and just not in a very comfortable mode. Imposter syndrome is a psychological condition. There's no pill, and a better term should be called self-underappreciation phenomenon, or self-depreciation. And you perceive your worth lower than other people's perceive of your worth. And so it's just fascinating how could you damage yourself that way? And for a long time, I heard of that word for a long time, and it just didn't register in my mind. When I was in sabbatical in 2016, I was in this apartment complex very close to the ocean. And I hit a rock bottom. That particular afternoon, I still, while I was preparing the slides, I still was overwhelmed while thinking of like relieving my feeling of that afternoon. And my daughter and I was playing, she was playing a ball against that wall, and I was looking down on the ground, looking down at the shadow of the leaves, and I felt like I have failed so much as a researcher. I didn't do anything. What I did was completely useless. And then I fell short when comparing myself with other folks in this community, are more established people, researchers, and then just my life was just a complete. It's a zero. It's a fill out with zero, and that's the feeling that I in a major meltdown. And so it was very scary. It was a very scary moment. I went back home. I didn't say anything to anyone. And so it's just, but then huge confusion. And I want to tell you that was 2016, and I already was tenured. I had all these awards, patents, publication, degrees. Still that I just said, oh, I got lucky, and either got lucky or other people, they probably they just for whatever reason they gave me the awards, and so I find all kinds of excuses to say I didn't do anything, and of course a lot of people didn't go to that extreme, and so in my other symptoms of having imposter syndrome is also, afraid of sharing my thoughts. And then that of course, interpreted I'm a shy person, and so I also, after several failures at interviews, like a radio station, newspaper, news station, TV station interviews, and I was telling my mom, I said that I always did horribly during interviews, and so people would even a small question like you're the lead author of this work, could be just a clarification question before the interview, that just threw me off, and I look like a big fraud, and so I wonder why is that. And I know that this tech profession, we work behind the scenes, but we do have to speak, right? We inspire, we teach, we present our work, we give keynotes, and so you do have to speak. We're not like in Disney musical but then you have to feel comfortable, and I couldn't do it, and for a long time I realized that no one had heard of me speaking. So and so George Clooney told someone something to the effect of act like yourself, don't act differently when you're around the important people, or for example, if you give a talk at a prestigious university, you should just do the same way as you give a talk at a lower tier university. But then this is just easily said than done. You will be nervous a lots of the time. You will be nervous, you will doubt yourself, and so how is this connected to research? And then a lot of time that you also want to say, if you have a new idea, if the self-doubt will quench it, you will say, oh, that's a ridiculous idea. It's so different from the mainstream research. that is also very dangerous because you want to develop your own research style, your uniqueness. You have to be unique, and you have to, if you follow completely what other people have done, your style will not be that unique. And having self-doubt is difficult because it prematurely kill your interesting thoughts. And so developing your own research style require confidence, require persistence. And only recently, I read about Amygdala hijacking. It turns out researchers know about this for a long time, and that explain why I look extremely stupid during interviews. And because my brain isn't stop involving this prefrontal cortex, this bigger part of the brain, which involving logic, thinking, reasoning, and then so on. But then if I'm scared, I freak out. I'll be just the prefrontal cortex is disabled, and then I just cannot think. I freeze. And so the more comfortable, confident you are, the better you will be able to answer questions. Why is your system secure? Why is it novel? Can you defend this attack? It's just the basic things that you know, okay? And the imposter syndrome is not just a female thing. It's also not just a colored people thing. It's just a lot of people don't talk about it. But statistical speaking, it infects women and people of color more because they are, they are the minority of a certain profession, and but then good to know that it's some condition you can also overcome. And I myself, I would consider myself largely overcome imposter syndrome. And a lot of time when I talk about this, people ask, what was, is this a family traits? Certainly there are there's a big elements, apples don't fall far from their traits. But I also noticed there's also the environment, you have gene and you have the environments, right? Both factors. The society's bias is also contributing. It's not helping, okay? If you have already started with bad genes, you're already very sensitive to certain kind of comments. I have a white male student who said that he vividly remember when doing an internship at Overstock.com as software engineer, and people mistaken him as a custodian, asking him to replace light bulbs because he's very masculine. People asked me to smell less. Because I didn't present as a very authoritative. And so these kind of a negative kind of comments, subtle message that you don't fit in, you don't belong, contribute in a way that you just feel less and less happy and less and less enthusiastic. Your passion just is waning, and then eventually you want to quit. And so this is become self-fulfilling prophecy, and then lots of time that is just confusing. You don't know, is this the person's fault or the system's fault? And then they were like, oh, she quit by herself, and so it's not the system's fault. But then we have to understand the society, the system has a big factor in this. And I made this this picture, because it's just that people now ask me to smell more because I actually look pretty mad all the time, according to my close family members. And so self-doubt is dangerous because you quit, and so sometimes you do want to quit if it's like no end job, dead end. You want to pivot, you want to quit, but then we don't want you to quit prematurely. That's will be very sad. And you need to understand that we need dogged persistence in science, in any profession, including cybersecurity. And so it's just you have ups and downs, and then you need to reach a certain level. You want to say, now I understand this. I have done what I'm here to do. initially. And so it's very important, we want, we want you to stay fierce, as, that would be ideal. But then, you have to be careful, the dropout zone, okay? And because when people drop out, they will say, oh, I'm not built for this career. I'm not good at for this, to start with, and I'm not interested in this. I was it's not, like I like this, I don't like this. But then, do you like this initially? You must like this initially, because you apply for grad school, you join, and you switch from master degree to PhD, something like this. And so ask yourself, do you give yourself time. And afraid of taking risk is another imposter syndrome negative effect, where people, there are opportunities, position, leadership positions that, people, oh, I'm not qualified. This profound feeling of not ready is always there. And so here, Greta Thunberg is helping us to tell you risk is, you have to embrace risk. It's not to say that you want to, go out without wearing a mask. Okay, always wear a mask. Okay, but then when you pursue certain career opportunities, don't be afraid. And this is very tough, fast-moving field, right? Cybersecurity, AI, machine learning, AI security. Fast moving, and so it's common for students to feel unqualified. But then you don't want to go to the very extreme. I had students who were like Google searching their research topic in a way, like for almost a year, and then telling me that there's no solution for this topic. Of course, there's no solution. You're supposed to come up with the answer, okay? So don't believe that other people hold the key already somewhere. It's just a matter of you finding it. No. You have to invent something. Your advisor trusts your ability, and then give you this research position, and you are qualified. And then just start working, okay? Start working. Former chairwoman of Federal Reserve of the United States, Janet Yellen, was when her name was being nominated, was floating around, as a potential candidate. People also say, oh, she's unqualified. She just didn't have the experience. A better person will be Larry Summers, established, renowned economist. And to that, Janet Yellen responded, don't count me out yet. So we all need to learn from her. Don't quit prematurely, okay? It's everyone is unqualified. If you haven't been in that position, of course, everyone is equally unqualified. And so stay there, and then once you start working in that position, you will work out. But then if things will get better if you invest your time and energy focusing on the actual work, okay? No one, and I keep telling my young graduate students, including undergraduate researchers, and a lot of undergraduate researchers, first time they say is, Professor, I want to do research, but I have zero experience, and I don't know this, I don't know that. And so I keep telling them, it's okay. I recruited you, I hired you. It's because that can be learned, okay? So and then there will be a lot of criticism in this profession, in cybersecurity. We all know that everyone is very critical, and then it's getting better. When you see your reviews, at least I feel like my reviews are getting more and more reasonable. People understand there's no absolutely perfect security work that are bullets, silver bullet secure, bulletproof. It's just the nature of this field, and so but sometimes occasionally you have this kind of random, irrational comments as you don't have new math. And or things like you work on X, but then I think you should work on Y. Or they think your work is too rigorous for security conferences, which obviously is just doesn't make any sense. So you have to be able to stand certain degree of this type of criticism. And then, that takes confidence and take persistence. And of course, you work on explaining your work. If they think your work is not novel, you explain why it is novel. But then the field also need to accept different flavors of novelty definition. What is novel? What is new? My work involved in ACSEC and SecDev, we emphasize on deployable security, impactful security solutions that actually solve real problems, practical problems. And a lot of times that people think, oh, there's no new math, this is not novel. But then it's very important as our field, as this discipline progresses, it's very important you have to close the gap between theory and practice. And so then maybe you have to redefine novelty, what is it meant to be useful, and then new. And then, Fred Cohen from 1980s proved that it's impossible to achieve perfect security. And by the same token, it's impossible to please everyone. So just, you want to try your best, but then don't be discouraged by those kind of random criticisms. And because you have to believe in yourself. If you start abandoning your own ship, then no one can help you. How to cope with imposter syndrome? So this is, of course, the biggest thing, right? So if you feel like you have occasionally suffer from this, and then, I encourage you to know your strengths. Know your strengths as a human being, but most importantly for this research profession, know your strengths as a researcher. So this is just from Jumanji movie. It's your strengths sometimes can be your weakness, and your weakness can be your strength. It's weird, because for a long time I thought that I'm such an outlier. I work on things that people don't like. I like to have certain, more general solution, quantitative measurement, comparison, and then, frameworks that have abstractions. And people don't appreciate, reviewers just, like they skip to the end of the paper and see, oh, what kind of a new vulnerability did you discover? None, reject. So for a long time, I realized that it took me a long time to realize that is actually my strengths. And so I want to actually make it shine. From a scientific perspective, how would you approach something? I don't just propose one solution. I propose a range of solutions. I compare them, and so people can have more comprehensive and complete view of this whole area. And I also like to come up with defense, not attack, and so that become my strengths. And so defensive research. And so I want you to think, and no one will tell you. If you're lucky, your advisor will tell you, you're very good at this. And this is what I tend to do with my graduate student. But then you have to tell yourself, what are you good at? You have to think very, very carefully. Otherwise, you always compare yourself with what other people have done. And you're like, oh, I fell short, no matter how I compare. And so you do have to recognize that everyone is different. Great minds don't think alike. And you have to identify your unique strengths. And that's the most important thing that helped me so much. And it's very important to understand that research requires diversity, and we need to have a diverse committee member, not just racial and gender diversity, but different research style, different topics. And most of the time that if you look at the reviewer's comments, if a reviewer does not work on this particular field, they will likely have less interest. And so if you say like 80% of the PC members do attack work, and then you can submit a defense paper, and it's very likely that they will think this is not exciting, because they are very excited about new vulnerability discovery. And so it's not just it's not a woman thing, okay? And so it's we need to have a diverse committee, not just the echo chamber. And so we can start with gender diversity to cover different group of people have different interests. And so when I was for a long time, that was extremely frustrated. I thought I was working on our work on CryptoGuard got rejected so many times. And then it just my other, just the entire ideal of secure and cyberspace, building defense research solutions that are generate fewer false positives that are useful in practice. Nobody cares in a way that would float our paper to accept, and very frustrating. And then you look at the comments like, okay, you think, how can I improve this? There's no insights in terms of improvement. All you get is that this is not very interesting. Well, of course they didn't say this, but then it's the tone, like, okay, I was assigned to this paper. I mean, it's not bad, but then it's not exciting. And so on one hand, I do want to make it more exciting, but on the other hand, you just consistently see that there's a certain style that they're looking for in so-called good paper. And so I almost moved myself to tears when I come across this conference called IEEE Secure Development Conference. And then, at the very beginning of the website, they said that we want to build security in, we don't want to just support attack work, and we have to actually have constructive solutions to secure system. I was like, this is my community. And so I was heavily involved, and so don't think like you're the only person struggling. Find your friends, find your people who share the same interests, and so program committee need to have diverse research interest. And from a gender specific perspective, similarly, there are gender specific topics, and domestic violence, technology support, and so I encourage you to read Adrian Porterfield's blog article, Why Gender Matters in Peer Review as well. And so have a diverse PC is a good start. It's just so important, because a lot of people say, oh, well, I mean, it's anonymous review, right? If your work is good, then you should get in. No. It is anonymous review, but then once you have this PC already set, your chance is already kind of, or determined. If there's no one who interested in your topic, then you'll expect a less enthusiastic review. And it's almost become the unspoken truth, and so people do want to. The system is getting better. It's getting better. It's slowly getting better. And largely depends on the PC chair. The PC chair determines, and it's very important because publication is such a bread and butter of this profession. Your promotion, your job, the happiness, right? The happiness factor. If you constantly get rejected for no good reasons, you will think of quitting. I don't blame you. What about your weakness? Work hard to improve it. Interestingly, some books will say fake it until you make it, although I think in the context of, if it means that Lin Yin, I do support, means that, don't self-doubt yourself. In just Lin Yin, okay, and in that regard, I do support. Although I don't support hiding your weaknesses. don't hide, okay? If you're missing certain skills, you either work hard to improve it if you cannot collaborate. If you can collaborate, if it's something that you just feel like, you need someone else with a better expertise to do it, then collaborate is completely fine. But then if it's a critical type of skills, you do have to work very hard, and then you will feel much better. And so, there are other parts of the puzzle. I think watching sports movies are very good. I especially recommend A Replacement, where Keanu Reeves plays a quarterback, and then he has a lot of self-doubt, and so he couldn't throw the ball out fast enough and got tackled. And so it's just very similar to our profession on many levels. Celebration. Okay. And celebration is one of the key imposter syndrome mitigation proposed back in the 70s in the first seminal paper on this problem. And so for our research profession, I want you to celebrate one, big and small. Okay, a week is over, a conference trip is completed, paper gets published, project gets delivered, a bug is fixed, a course ends. I think you want to break the chronic stress cycle, and then give yourself time to recognize your achievement. And you will always have the tendency, I think a lot of high achieving people will always have the tendency, there's this I haven't done, there's this my to-do list, and but then look at all the things you have done. Celebration. And it's very important to also understand the system, the support system. You can always self-improve, but then there's a limit in terms of, there's a diminishing return, how much that helps you. The system has to be there. This is the interconnection faith graph for researchers. In order to get things done, paper published, the professor needs to be confident about him or herself. So is the students. And then the bosses, supervisors, funding agencies, paper reviewers need to have faith in researchers as well. I had many years ago, I had comments from an anonymous reviewer saying, I still don't trust these authors. And I wonder, what is the evidence of this strong disbelief, right? It's anonymous. I mean, what did we do? If we needed to do more experiments, then say it. And so it's just very difficult. But then starting from yourself, and you need to have faith in yourself, but then understanding that sometimes if you already tried very hard, there might be other factors that beyond your control. And this support systems is something that is so important. Is understand there are factors you can control and factors you cannot control. Lin Yin alone is not enough. And so in our community, we are building we are working hard to improve the support system, including this workshop. But also understanding that you also need to find your own support system, find your allies, find your friends, find your peers that share the same values, and then make sure that you do support each other. And so there are some things that you can support, you can control, you can do. Coping with imposter syndrome, and this is also very, very important. You have, okay, you tell me, know your strengths, right? So but then you are like operating in a very confident way, which is great. But then occasionally your confident bubble gets breached. You probably have people telling you, you're not good enough. People telling me, women, you really suck at computer science. And of course, that comment was under the context of you are very strong. But then most of women suck at computer science. And so there are other, you know, sexual harassment incidents I came across, gender harassment, which was defined as more subtle, verbal or you know, like grabbing, okay, grabbing legs, grabbing hands, that does not, you know, amounted to a prosecution level sexual assault. But then it just happens more frequent than you like. And so it's very important you have to guard your confidence. And I would say stand up and leave immediately if the situation gets really out of control. And then don't, you know, I think a lot of times that it occurred to me that, oh, I have to pretend to be civil and polite. No, you don't have to be, okay? You can stand up and leave. If you don't want to challenge the person, you just stand up and then leave. And you don't have to say anything. But it's very important you guard your confidence, because you will feel very bad. And of course, there's also actions, you know, file Title IX complaints, and then, you know, ask your friends to file Title IX complaints. And then so there are all kinds of measures to rectify the situation. But it's very important you don't have to pretend you like what's happening. And of course, the system is improving very slowly. ACM, Computer Society, and IEEE Computer Society, ACM CCS also require now conferences to have code of conduct specifically addressing sexual harassment and gender harassment. I should also mention there is a landmark report from National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine on sexual harassment. And one of the biggest things that they emphasize is that organization culture is extremely important. And so organization leaders need to proactively say that, you know, we have zero tolerance to sexual harassment, gender harassment. The system is improving, so have faith in yourself, and then do try very hard, and then don't overly blame on yourself. A lot of times that if you get frustrated, talk about it and see, is this the what are the reasons that contribute to the frustration. Don't just blame on yourself, and then, you know, share your frustration. It's very important you talk to people, and you understand that the system is far from being perfect. It is improving very slowly. And also read about, I should also mention, Brotopia is a very good book. Let me just show it here. Brotopia, okay. By Emily Chang. Interesting read. And so I want to just stop here so that we can have questions.